Hey, thanks for joining Nosco's Unpack, the channel all about flexible packaging. My name's Steve Kruger, and I'm the Flexible Packaging Product Manager here at Nosco, and I'm joined today by Kayla Easter, Packaging Advisor. And today we're going to talk to you about moving from a rigid bottle into a flexible pouch. Kayla, thanks for joining us today. Why don't you walk me through what it is we did here today?
Yes, so thank you, Steve, first for having me. I worked very closely with the engineering team. We decided to do a case study to kind of analyze and look into the data, such as weight comparisons, freight costs, things like that, if you were to consider a switch from rigid plastics to flexible plastics as a primary container.
So let's talk about some of the results that you found during this study.
Okay, yeah, so one notable thing that I would want to talk about for sure is the weight differences. So in a rigid container, you're actually utilizing, in this study that we did, 80% more weight than just an empty flexible pouch. So this empty container weighs 80% more than this, and that also translates to cases and just larger quantities as well.
So realistically, what we're talking about is shipping differences from shipping air out of the rigid container versus the flexible pouch and the compactness that is the flexible materials.
Yeah, that's absolutely huge. So with the rigid containers, when they're empty, they're still this size. Whenever you're switching to a pouch ships flat. So the amount of space a pouch takes up compared to this empty air, as you said, ridiculous amount of difference. Like I said, 80% difference to ship 12 of these versus 12 of these.
So Kayla, I see how that's a huge impact from when I ship an empty pouch versus a container that's filled with nothing. But when push comes to shove, I'm not really shipping empty containers, I'm shipping product inside of my container. So how does that translate when we convert from a rigid container into a pouch?
Yeah, so that difference is still there. This time it's 17% once we fill it. So the amount of powder that went into here, we poured it directly into here, weighed both, 17% difference. So that means when you're shipping your finished goods, you can save 17% of your weight on weight.
Is there any other things that really add elements that are important for our viewers to know about? Like what I'm thinking here is I'm shipping my product, I gain some efficiencies on my empty bag, a little less efficiencies, but still efficient. How does this all pack out when we're trying to create our shippers, to distribute our product across to all of the distribution centers or point of purchase locations that product is supposed to be on shelves at?
Yeah, so because there is more pouches that can fit than tubs, you're actually saving a lot of money, and the number of items that you can fit on one pallet, big difference. So whenever they're empty, and you're shipping the flat guys to our rigid containers here, you can actually fit about 1,800% more of these flat pouches than you can these empty ones.
Flat and empty.
Yes.
Flat and empty, 1,800% more than the rigid containers.
Yes. So in my math here, that is 5,820 more of these flat incoming that you can get.
Wow.
So
what
that's
a difference.
Yeah, it's remarkable actually, which is why we always try to sway people towards considering flexible packaging as a sustainable material. A lot of times plastic gets a bad rap for being single-use or non-recyclable, etc. But whenever you think about the carbon footprint of flexible packaging, this is a huge, huge sustainable advantage that your company could take advantage of.
So what we're saying is less waste in the first place, which I think probably many of our viewers have maybe heard that term before. If that's new to you, really, we're utilizing less raw materials, less carbon emissions, less total footprint to manufacture a pouch versus its rigid container counterpart.
Yep.
Not to mention the components that you have from a cap, a bottle, a label versus just a single pouch.
Yep. And now, Steve, I know what your next question is going to be. So we talked about whenever they're empty and they're shipping, but we don't ship empty product. We ship filled product.
You read my mind.
Yeah, so the analysis on filled is similar. It's not quite as drastic as when they're empty, which is still something to note. But we're seeing about a 33% increase in number of items that you can get once filled if you're using a pouch as compared to this rigid container. So still a third more you can ship a third more of your product out on one pallet using pouches than you can on this. So that actually translates really well into freight cost savings as well, because as you can imagine, if you're shipping more items on a pallet, you need less pallets. So while one pallet will be slightly more expensive to ship, your unit cost per finished good item for shipping is significantly reduced.
Sure, that makes sense. I can see how that all translates.
Mhm.
So all great information, Kayla, and thanks for sharing. With the current conditions of the supply chain, how does that translate into the rigid container versus the flexible pouch?
Sure. So I actually work with a lot of customers that utilize this kind of packaging as their primary container. And in our supply chain conversations that I've had with them, I've learned a lot about the lead time on these components. So having to procure multiple components, a bottle, a cap, first of all, is additional work. With the lead times too, I've heard 6 months being kind of the standard, especially on non-standard custom items. And I've even heard that it can go out even longer than that.
Goodness.
Yeah. When you compare that to Nosco's domestically produced digital flexible packaging, though, we're looking more at lead times of 2 to 4 weeks. You're also eliminating needing to procure a label, a bottle, and a cap, because all of those things are just kind of wrapped up into one unit here. So today we actually covered just the surface level of what we really learned in our case study. We have tons of data points here that we analyze, a lot of different situations were looked at, and we'll have those results available to you.
Well, thanks a lot, Kayla, for joining. We really appreciate it. And to our viewers, thanks for watching our first Nosco Unpack. We'll make all the resources available in the description below. Feel free to click the link. Don't forget to subscribe and like. And thanks for watching Nosco Unpacked, flexible packaging made easy. We'll see you next time.